What's up guys, welcome back to another For Those Who Code video. In this video we are taking a look into Panda CSS. Panda CSS is a utility CSS library that provides a set of utility classes, patterns and recipes for building modern responsive user interfaces in a web application. Let's go ahead and click on getting started inside of official Panda documentation, and after hitting on get started with Panda, Panda is a styling engine that generates styles, primitives to author atomic CSS and recipes in a type-safe and readable manner. At the end, Panda is a CSS-in-JS engine that generates atomic CSS at build time via CLI or post CSS. That's cool. So we also have like migration guide from other frameworks to other libraries to Panda, for example, stitches and style components. It looks like Panda is a great alternative that we could use inside of our web UI applications. So inside of our framework, let's go ahead and click on Next.js. We'll be using Next.js to build our UIs with Panda CSS. And before starting off by clicking on the command that's needed to create a new Next app, we'll go ahead and see the UI that we are building with Panda. These are pretty much simple UI that's responsive, and it's built all with Panda CSS. And this UI originally is a free UI theme, which I converted to Panda UI. So it's a free Chakra theme converted to using Panda. Obviously, this library is created by the creators of Chakra, and yeah, these is simple UI that we are trying to build using Panda CSS. And let's go ahead and copy this particular command and go to our project. And before we start, I'm Ishan, and in this channel we discuss and learn new skills around the topics of design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that are coming up, please subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this particular command to create a new next project. Let's also name our project Panda CSS and Next. So we'll be making use of Panda CSS and Next.js. We'll be sticking with TypeScript, yes to ESLint, no to Tailwind CSS, src directory, probably yes to src directory, and yes of course to app router. And also we won't be customizing to our defaults. We have opened up this particular project inside of our IDE, and we can see that we have the PA and PM log file, and our main layout and page has been configured correctly. So let's go ahead and follow our documentation, and inside of our documentation we can see we need to install Panda CSS as a dev dependency with -d flag. Let's go ahead and copy this particular two commands, where we'll be also installing and initializing post CSS. So we'll be using post CSS with Panda CSS. So that's do CSS there. And also we can see Panda in it dash post CSS will create a post CSS config.js file inside of our root project. So that would be the project, and we need to add this particular plugin as a plugin defined inside of our file there. And probably we have this src, and we can see it took me a few seconds to load up files here. We can see the plugins here, and probably it's the same thing. So we just go ahead and copy and paste what do we see here in the documentation. And also let's go ahead and configure the content inside of our panda config.ts file. Let's copy this particular code that's include, and there's an array where we have a config.ts file, there is include, and inside this we have a couple of paths defined. Let's go ahead and copy and paste that one out, and make sure that you are using this particular app router. So and also we need to overwrite our package.json file with this, probably inside of our scripts. This is needed in order to generate our run for dependency installation. So you can read more about CodeGen in the CLI section here, but we won't be diving at the moment. And also we need to create or overwrite what do we have here in global.css? Let's go to app, and inside of our app we have this global.css. Let's go ahead and paste these one out with Panda CSS, and it looks pretty much similar to what we have in Tailwind, creating the base CSS file, and that's a great experience of Panda CSS. So let's move along. So import CSS in your app. Let's go ahead and import our CSS inside of our layout.tsx. So let's go to layout.tsx, and in the top part we should import this particular CSS file that we just edited. And after that's done, we should be good to start using Panda. Let's copy this. What do we have inside of page.tsx? Let's go here, and inside of page, let's overwrite everything. Make sure that Panda is running. So also we can add another CSS color red, and this should be just like this. And let's go ahead and save it. And inside of a terminal, let's use, I was using this particular terminal. Let's go ahead and spin up our div server. So to spin up our div server, we can go to pnpm dev, and we should see our app is running locally. And let's go to open this, and let's go ahead and also inspect, making sure that Panda CSS is working locally. All right, so it's taking a few minutes. It says our import globals is not properly correct. Let's go ahead and check why we have this here, and this should be globals.css. Probably that's a plural. So let's go ahead and we can see the Panda CSS is working perfectly great with Next.js configured with TypeScript. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and make some changes so that we could be replicating the same piece of UI that we saw here with Panda CSS with its core concepts. So let's begin with concept like cascading layers. Cascading layers are simply, it refers to the order of CSS rules applied to HTML element, and at the end it's just import layer CSS, which we did inside of main index.css file. And inside of our patterns, we can see a lot of patterns here, and the patterns are basically our predefined patterns like stack, add stack, vstack, wrap, which we'll be using. And responsive design is also another thing, which is just something like Tailwind does. Predefined screen breakpoints, LG, MD, and we can define our custom styles as like object notation inside of this CSS parenthesis here. So this is great. If you are pretty much familiar with Chakra, then you may like the object notation syntax for writing CSS-in-JS. And also we talked about patterns, and recipes are generally used for defining our variants. So they are, as you can see, we are using CVA, which is class variance authority, inspired by class variance authority, which helps us to like craft our UI with a different variants. For example, we have solid button, outline button, and other buttons, and also size variant and visual variants. So we'll be using recipes and also patterns, and also JSX style props. We can go to this particular section where we'll be using JSX style props, where we can see we'll be making the use of this similar kind of thing, where we see a button that's a constant and that's defined, that's using styled from style system JSX from Panda. And also we have a couple of variants, and finally using the button in overall in the application with some props like variant and empty. for our button. So this is similar thing that we'll be using, which is JSX style props. So these are concepts that we'll be diving into. Also, if you are thinking of customizing your theme, then you should visit how to customize your theme with this theme customization. But we'll be sticking with the same theme pattern that we see here. Also, some advanced concept like tokens, utilities, and everything is here. Let's go ahead and make a couple of files. So we'll be closing this one out. So inside of our project, we will start off by creating our main file, which is a wrapper. So inside of our app, let's go ahead and create layout, which is a directory, and we'll call it layout. And inside this particular layout, let's create a file and call it wrapper.tsx. And inside the wrapper.tsx, we want to export a constant and call it container. And that particular container is a functional component. So we import this FC from React. Basically, that wrapper prop is an interface. So let's also our interface wrapper prop and also import FC and React node from React. And also we haven't imported CSS used from our container. Just takes in the children as a prop and it's typed as React node, and the interface of it is defined here. So that's good. Let's go ahead and close that one out. And inside of our app, we want to create another folder and call it components. And inside components, we want to create a file and call it banner.tsx. So inside of our banner, we will create an export a constant and call it banner. And that banner would be inside of container. So we need to import this particular container. Let's import container from our app layout wrapper. So that's this one, and it tells me we cannot find that. Let's go to layout wrapper, export const container, and here we have container. All right, so probably we don't have anything inside here. So let's go ahead and create some divs inside of our banner. So inside of our section, we want to paste in a couple of tags that we'll be using. This vstack is import from style system patterns that's used as a pattern with Panda CSS, and also CSS, which will help in writing some styles, which is also imported from Panda from the path style jsx/css. And probably this button, actually we haven't really made the use of this particular thing called button. Let's go ahead and import this particular button as well. And inside of our app, we should create another folder, which is UI. And inside that UI, we'll be creating a file and call it button.tsx. So inside of our button.tsx, we want to define a button variant. And to define a button variant, we'll be using CVA, class variant authority from Panda CSS. And it's just a object-based notation syntax. As you can see here, we defined a couple of base CSS properties or CSS styles here, which is display of flex, border radius, cursor pointer, transition, ease in out. And there are a couple of variants of buttons that we'll be using, which is in the visual side we have three variants, and in the size we have SM, MD, and LG. And these are the default variants. If any, none of the variants are passed in. So inside default, it's visual, primary, and size is MD. And inside our visual here, we have primary, secondary, and outline. And we also have sizes. And let's go ahead and save this one out. And inside of our app here, probably we also need an illustration. So let's go ahead and copy that particular thing, called illustration, and we have I have this illustration ready, so I'll just copy in the illustration that I've prepared. Let's go to our public, and inside there what we want to do is we want to paste in this particular file and call it assets. And here we have all the assets that we need. Illustration is here, and let's go ahead and collapse that one out. And also probably we haven't really imported this image, so let's go ahead and import that particular image. And I assume this is a blurrer. Let's go ahead and rename this. So we have just imported everything that's needed, and we are using stack vstack from ChakraUI patterns, using CSS, and also using this button component that we define inside of our UI. And if you take a look at the markup, we have these class names and vstack that's used, which is gap of 10, and LG is the padding is 32. And similar goes to another pattern that we used, vstack, and also applying some CSS styles with MD and LG breakpoints for responsive design. And with this couple of changes, it's just adding CSS, which I suppose I won't be typing out all CSS styles here, but you can see we also used a button as a visual and passed in primary and size MD, which is same thing that we define here, visual, primary, and sizes MD. And these are variants that we used, these two buttons. And same go to this particular image, which is an illustration, and we have used image from next image and also passed in the src with some CSS styles added as MX Auto. So with this a couple of changes, let's go ahead and save it and take a look at the browser. Probably we haven't imported this banner inside of our layout.tsx. So let's go to our page.tsx, and inside our page.tsx, first of all, what we want to do is we want to import banner and use this particular banner inside of our app here. So let's go ahead and use this particular banner here, and let's go ahead and save it and take a look at the browser. And as you can see, we have these button variants and also these headings, and everything is responsive. All right, after banner is done, let's move on to features. So inside of our components, we will call a new file and call it features.tsx. We'll create a constant, call it features, and that returns some JSX. And also we want to import a couple of files, and we will import everything at once. And we imported container and also make the use of vstack because we are vertically stacking elements, and also use wrap from patterns and CSS from this particular library, and also card, which we haven't created yet, but we will be creating that. So inside of our section, what we want to do is we want to use all the divs that we created. So we'll be pasting in the divs that we created, and these are pretty much the divs that we need, which uses this vstack, wrap, and every property that's created up here. And probably it's complaining that I haven't made anything called card. Let's go to UI and create a card component there, card.tsx. So inside of card.tsx, I'll be pasting in what we have prepared, and we just imported CSS from Panda CSS, and also make the use of pattern like circle and vstack, and also image from next image. And we defined some card props like image link, image description, which is optional, heading, paragraph, and card link, and typed it out. And also we made the use of a couple of divs using CSS, and using object notation kind of syntax, we are defining properties here. And this is a card, so it's a vstack card with a gap of 2, and padding is 10, and align items is left, and in the last screen the padding is 8. Same goes to the circle. We have used a couple of CSS here, and also made the use of image src as image link, and also image description was optional. That's why we provided picture props as a fallback if no image description is passed in, but you should avoid this in your production application. But yeah, this works for now. And also we have these p tags, and also h2 tags, which takes in heading prop, paragraph, which takes in heading prop to this card component, and an anchor. Probably this should be a link from next link, but we are using anchor. I mean, we don't need any kind of navigation. That's why we are using anchors. And the ref is the prop that's passed into this component. This is pretty much of the card component that we have created. Let's go to featured, and we have this card out. We don't have any errors there. Same goes to this particular features. We made the use of vstack and made the gap of 12, padding of 10, mx auto, and large is padding of 32. And we are using vstack and adding a couple of properties like md for medium devices, lg for large screen. And we are not customizing Panda CSS, but using the default Panda CSS, which is 6 XL of gaps. And yeah, and ultimately here we are making the use of wrap to wrap our entire cards in the mobile devices. We are describing some cards which takes in image link, heading, and paragraph prop, and also card link prop. And these are pretty much cards that we need. Let's go ahead and save this one out. Also card.jsx, and inside of our page.jsx we want to import our card. Let's go ahead and import features, and also we will add features down here. After that's done, let's go ahead and save it and take a look at the browser. And these are some cards that we created with Panda CSS, and these can be customized. You can pass in any of the props inside these cards. So this is great. So let's go ahead and go to our project and also create another component and call it testimonial. So inside of our testimonial, let's create a constant called testimonials, and we'll be using a fat arrow function. And inside there we have used container, but we haven't imported container. Okay, so let's go ahead at the top and import everything that we need, including the container and also CSS from Panda CSS, also using some patterns like circle and vstack from Panda, and also image from next image. We will also add some markup that we have created, which are a couple of divs that we will be needing. These are a couple of divs, and that's using vstack, which is pattern that we're using from Panda. And as an object notation syntax, we are writing some CSS like gaps, align item center. And same goes to here, this particular div where we have the image, and that's using vstack of gap of 4 to separate between the image and the rest of the div. And inside this particular div, we have vstack of gap of 1 and align items to center, and also using paragraph and span for our person name and this position. So also make sure that you're using this image, which is the Next.js image, along with this particular circle, which is from Panda, imported from patterns circle. After that's done, let's go ahead and save it, and let's go to inside of our browser, or probably we need to import everything at page. Let's go ahead and import testimonials and make the use of testimonials inside of our page.tsx. After that's done, let's go ahead, and it said that it's taking image from Unsplash. So we need to make this hostname image unsplash.com configured inside of our next.config.js. So let's go ahead inside of our next.config.js, and we'll make this particular change. We'll be defining that we'll be receiving some images from third-party URLs to keep our app a little bit safe. So and this is what we need. So let's go ahead and save it, and inside of our page.tsx, we'll save that one and hit refresh. As you can see, we have this particular testimonial along with the image that's loaded from Unsplash using the image tag from next image. That's great. Let's go ahead and add another piece of component, which is a footer. Let's call it footer.tsx, and inside of footer, what we want to bring in is create a constant and call it footer, and that particular footer is taking in some CSS that's should be important. So let's go ahead and import everything that we need. So this CSS is taken from Panda, and also we have imported the logo from public asset, including the next image and vstack, add stack patterns, and also our container. So inside of our container, lastly, what we want to do is we want to bring in our div, pieces of div that we created, and these are using this particular styles, which underscore hover. So this is how you can achieve hovering effects with Panda, and this is basically add stack elements. So horizontal stack and vertical stacked with a gap of 4 align items to center. So and we have this image of a logo, which is width of 200 and height of 200 as well. So these are pretty much of the markup that we need. So let's go ahead and save that one out, and inside of our page we'll be importing footer and also importing footer down here. So after that's done, let's go ahead and save it, and let's take a look at the browser, and here we have our footer with some hover interaction. All right, so this is how we generally basically use and work around with Panda. So we have touched some introductory topics of Panda, for example, using some patterns, covered some core concepts of patterns, recipes, and some JSX style props. So if you want to learn more around Panda CSS, which you can build your Next.js and web UI components and ship it to production today. So guys, in this video we learned some introductory core concepts about Panda and how we can use Panda to build a simple UI that we created like this. All right, so I hope you learned something new. If you want to learn more around the topics of design and development, please subscribe for more videos just like this, and don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in the next one.